welcome to RealClearFetish Talks RealClearPlay, a podcast that talks about kink and sober life and everything in between. This is season 6. As you can see, the format is slightly different. I've gone away from Instagram Live, mainly because, well, as everyone knows on the fetish scene, Instagram doesn't like fetish people, so they keep blocking us. So this is a safer bet for me. Also, slightly less stressful than doing it live. As you can see, the setup is slightly different background. It is because it's not done on Zoom, it's not done on Instagram Live, and I actually have my guest here in person. And it's the current winner of International Mr. Leather 2023. Marcus, hi, welcome.
Hi, Ralph.
How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for inviting me into your place.
Yeah, my small place.
Yes. Well, it's very cozy.
It is cozy. Yeah. I've crammed a lot of stuff in here and make it work.
It's a lot of fun stuff. I'm enjoying taking it all in.
Yeah, you just arrived this morning from a weekend in Hamburg.
Yeah, I spent the weekend Gay Pride in Hamburg, and it was also their motorcycle club, their 50th anniversary. So it's the oldest motorcycle club, I believe, in Germany, is what they say. So, yeah,
very nice.
Great community in Hamburg. Thank you so much for being so kind to me and welcoming.
Yeah, he was literally on a flight this morning at 6 in the morning.
Let's just say 6.
I allowed him to have a nap when he arrived. I think that was the best thing.
It's very kind of you too.
Yeah. I allowed it.
Europeans are so welcoming and kind. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So everyone knows the format. This is season 6. So I start with 4 standard questions, and then we see where the conversation goes. You up for that?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Let's go.
Fantastic. What do you prefer I call you? Names, pronouns, and title.
Marcus, and pronouns he, him, and title. Well, we got the Mr. International Mr. Leather there. Yeah. Mr. International Mr. Leather.
Everyone wants to put the Mr. in the front, and because our titles over here all have Mr. in the front. So us saying international feels very odd to us.
At this point, everybody says Mr. IML, so you might as well.
Mr. IML.
Just call me Mr. IML.
The rest of the episode. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Let's see. Well, I'm a Mexican Texan who's ready for some sexin. Anyway, that was my line from that I used for Pex and Personality.
Do you know what I used for mine?
No, I don't.
It's I believe in world peace and free fisting. That was my line. Okay, I used that the whole year. Anyway,
good.
Back to you.
I think we need to raise that up again.
Absolutely.
Bring it back.
Yeah. We need some world peace and more fisting.
Anyway, so I'm from Texas. I've lived in Los Angeles since I was 21, and I'm 39 now. So I moved there when I was 21. I started working at the Eagle LA when I was 21. And so I've been there for 18 years working at the Eagle. It's been incredibly good to me. The Charlie and Hunter and Vince, who I work for, they are amazing family that we have created there at the bar. What else? That's all for the moment. I'm sure I'll get into more stuff.
It was just a small little introduction to yourself. Yeah. Completely clear-headed, sober, or social drinker?
Completely clear-headed. Yeah. Sober. 12 years. My sobriety date is February 7th, 2011, and that's sober from. I don't do poppers. I don't smoke weed. I smoke cigars and I drink caffeine. So that's sort of the extent. Yeah.
Well, I do Red Bull and the occasional Viagra, so that is the extent I go to as well. I want to learn how to smoke cigars, but I don't like the smell, which is my problem.
Yeah. Well, you're just gonna have to keep practicing. Yeah. Maybe do it in well-ventilated spaces. That's my recommendation.
Help, yeah. What is clear play to you, and why is it important?
This question. I'm remembering all the questions are coming back to me as I've watched some of
It's all the same questions every episode, yeah.
Well, everything is clear play to me because my whole life is just I'm sober all the time. So I love the idea of play in many different facets. we talk about play when we have sex with each other, and or maybe do a scene or participate in whatever our kink is. But um, I'm also really concerned with the element of play as important to adults. Yeah, I think we have a society that like doesn't allow adults, or particularly men, to be playful, and I I think that's really important. I think we access play in our kink exploration. Particularly, one like super easy example is the puppy scene.
Mm.
Like the puppies, that's all about play. Like I would imagine, I haven't tried so far. One must really have to get into this sort of imaginary sort of land, headspace, in order to really take themselves there to be a dog. And I think that's really therapeutic. So clear play. Yeah, everything that I do is always clear headed. I always have to be aware of my my reactions to things, my emotions, my thoughts, and it's what works best for me. And it has been the key for me to be able to understand the things that I'm most authentically drawn to. Um, so it's really everything to me. It's not just my play. What was the question? Say the question again.
What is clear play and why is it important?
Yeah. Well, I think I've answered both of
Oh,
those
absolutely.
questions.
It's I think especially as sober people, clear play is so important. You kind of have to keep yourself safe, your sobriety safe. But well done in 12 years. That is amazing. Um, what brought you to the point? It's like, okay, I need to stop
Okay.
on the drinking,
Yeah. So it
if I may
was.
ask.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I was in a relationship with somebody for about 3 years, and I was like 22 to 25. The guy was like 20 years older than me. And when we broke up, I was so heartbroken that I knew that I wasn't going to be able to get over my heartache without getting sober. So um, I went to a few 12-step program meetings, and I wasn't really ready to join.
Mm.
Um, but um, I was able to stay not drinking for almost a year on my own. And actually, that's also not true. There was a friend who worked with me at the bar, and he had a bad New Year's Eve, and I had a bad New Year's Eve, and we both decided that we needed to stop drinking.
Yeah.
And so we both stopped drinking together for almost a whole year.
Yeah.
And then I came to London, and I was on a vacation here, and I was 6 days short of not drinking for a full year. And I decided that I was going to only drink internationally. So,
Because if it's not in the country, it doesn't count.
well, also, I sort of thought I was just, it's too basic to like drink at home in the States with everybody else, like to party the way everybody else does. But somehow it's different, like drinking with people internationally. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous things people people addicts and alcoholics come up with to rationalize um, the behavior. But yeah, so I work at a bar, and so the next day when I came back from London, I drank again because um, the craving had kicked in,
Yeah.
and that's how it works for me. Um, if I stay stopped, then I don't have to think about whether I'm gonna drink or not. But if I start drinking again, I will always be thinking whether I choose to take the drink or not. I will always be thinking about that.
Yeah.
Which means, if I'm thinking about that, then I'm not present. I am, I'm in my head worrying about whether or not to take a drink because I know where it always goes. It always goes to the same place.
So how did you find? I know you work at the Eagle in where's
In Los Angeles.
in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
How do you find that to do? Well, you're 12 years sober, so I'm assuming you can do that. So that's perfectly fine. But how did you find that in early sobriety to work in a bar when you're trying not to drink?
Particularly it was really hard at that first year when it was just me and the one friend who, but he also worked at the bar. Like
Yeah.
my sobriety, I have never done it alone. Sober community is absolutely essential
Mm.
for me to maintain my sobriety. Engaging with my sober community on a regular basis is essential,
Yeah.
and that's how I've been able to maintain that by staying very close to other people who understand that sobriety is the best way for them, and it's the best way for me. So we sort of like support each other through that. Yeah.
It's yeah, I definitely know it from myself. If I go out somewhere, if I have someone I can check in with, it's like, okay, I'm struggling a little bit. It's like just grab someone and kind of go, okay, and then just get the thoughts out of my head. So you having someone behind the bar
Yeah.
who was going through the same thing would make life a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the only way that I managed to get any sort of sobriety
Yeah.
within that first year because, the two of us were doing it together. But it was hard. It was even harder for me during that year because he was doing other things. He was doing other party drugs, and I was diving into my ultra marathon um hobby. My ultra marathon hobby. I used to run like 50 milers. My longest race was 63 miles, which I know you guys do as a kilometers here.
No, it's miles here as well. Yeah.
Okay.
I do kilometers because I'm from the mainlands of
Yeah.
Europe, but yeah, we do miles here as well.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize
Oh
that.
yeah.
Okay.
But
Um,
that's crazy. I always kind of look at running and it's like, oh, I only run if I'm being chased.
yeah. Yeah, well, it makes sense though. It's like I'm always like more is better, more is better. So more miles. So I dived in, which is a really wonderful sport for somebody who is kind of an isolator and a loner because I'm afraid of people. Like that's, old stuff
Yeah.
from my childhood growing up in Texas and conservative small town Texas and conservative sort of religious um, place. Yeah.
Yeah. So 12 years sobriety, working in a bar, and you have your friends to support there. So over the years, what have you kind of learned along the way? What works for you? What doesn't work for you?
What works for me and doesn't work for me? Well, let's see. Oh gosh, 12 years has been a while. So
Yeah.
what has worked at certain times has shifted.
Yeah.
Um, One of the first things that I picked up was a book that I now describe as being my favorite book.
Yeah.
I picked up The Artist's Way. Have you ever heard of this book?
No, I haven't.
So it's like a creativity workbook to help you like unlock your creativity, maybe if it's lost or something. And I always thought of myself as an artist, and my dream since I was a child was to be a pop star, which I didn't have that language necessarily when I was a child. I was just like, I want to be Britney Spears. Um,
Don't we all?
exactly.
I want to be
I'm
Kylie, but
okay. Okay. Well, you understand.
I do.
Perfect. But I actually put it on my knuckles. Pop star.
Ah,
Pop star. Yeah.
very nice.
Yeah, so that was my dream when I was a child. So I've always been like very much like I felt like it's my destiny to be an artist and to be creative. And I thought it was to be a performer. So I've sang a little bit, I've danced a little bit, and what else have I done? Oh, I did drag. So speaking of the things that like kind of like side things that were an authentic pursuit of my interest and I guess I don't know soul cravings. Um, so when I first got sober, I started painting my nails all the time, all different colors. Before, now all boys do it,
Yeah.
but in 2011, not as many boys were painting their nails. I was like fluorescent, like orange, green, like all different colors, like fluorescent Easter eggs. Um, so at first, it was a lot of different creative things, and I also started watching RuPaul's Drag Race at that time, and I got really into drag and makeup, and so I went to I went to a makeup school and I learned. I was like, I'm gonna be a makeup artist. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to be in front of the camera necessarily. I'm supposed to be like making people up. So I did makeup and I did a little drag, and I pursued that for like 8 or 9 years.
Oh wow.
Um, so what was the question again?
No, it was just like what's worked, what's not worked
What's
of your sobriety journey. It's like it when you're talking about all the creativity and so on, it rings so true with me because as soon as I wasn't necessarily sober when I started having my creativity again, but as we've talked about, I sing with the London Gay Men's Chorus. I do creative writing. I do video editing. I do this. I think a lot of people who have addiction issues are quite creative people because our brains are kind of constantly busy and we don't quite know what to do with all that, and unless we have something, an outlet where we can put it into, we kind of fall into either drinking or drug taking, and it repeats, that story repeats so many times when I've talked to other people, and a lot of recovering addicts are creative people, so it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I really think that I love this idea of creativity being for absolutely everybody.
Absolutely.
It's for every human being, and every human being, regardless of. A lot of people relate the word creativity to making art, and it's not just making art, because people can use their creativity to solve a math problem or use their creativity to solve a plumbing problem, and so I just think that it's like a muscle that you have to sort of like stretch. So in regard to things that work, stretching that creative muscle and being able to tune in to what what do I want to stretch creatively, like there was, I did gay men's chorus also, so I stretched that creative muscle by singing, and I stretched the creative muscle by doing makeup, and um, I just follow the flow of whatever else there is to explore, actually.
It's when you become sober and you kind of get back to, I think for a lot of people, especially if you're in active addiction, a lot of your creativity goes away. I've met friends who are amazing artists when it comes to drawing or other creative stuff, but it just doesn't happen when you're in active addiction. It kind of goes on the back burner because it's not important. So it's when you come out of it and you realize, oh, there's this whole world of things I can do without all this mess over here. It's so important to get in contact with that again. Um, so let me just have a quick look at your text here. So you're planning on going back to UCLA at the moment?
Oh yeah, well, I shouldn't say going back to, but going back to school.
Going back to school.
Yeah. So I graduated high school. I went to a university in Lubbock, Texas for 2 semesters. And really, it was so important for me to get out of like small town conservative Texas. And Lubbock was exactly like my hometown of Midland, Texas, which is West Texas. And I always wanted to live in a big city. And my first big city was living in Austin, Texas. And what are we talking about again? I forget.
No, it's education.
Education. All right.
Of course, now you're a title holder. A lot of time goes on that. You have to travel everywhere. And you talk about UCLA as one of the things you're doing at the moment.
Right. Oh yeah. So going back to school. So basically, I forgot the question.
That's fine.
Yeah. It was really important for me to get myself to Los Angeles, to a big city, and find the community that I wanted. And then, but in order to do that, I had to support myself, and so I had to work a lot. And then I was an active alcoholic as well, so it's like there was no time to study, and studying is really hard for me. I was a straight A student when I was in school, but like it's like reading doesn't really come easily to me, and so I'm getting better now in adulthood, but back then I didn't have the patience or I didn't have the time at all, actually. So I went back to school, Mostly in 2020
Yeah,
because I went to Spain to fuck Spanish guys, really.
as you do, as you do. There's plenty of them.
Yeah, that was that was the goal. I'm like, I'm going to Spain because Spanish guys are hot. And
I will agree.
in 2019, I went on this trip to Spain for my birthday in December. I spent a week there, and I all I did was go to CrossFit, fuck Spanish guys. That's it. Or they weren't all Spanish. They were in Madrid. They just
Tourists as well. Tourists, yeah.
one
People.
of them was Argentinian. Anyway,
Well, I think a lot of like when we go on holiday, it is because of like as Kinksters, we like holidays is a little bit driven on the sex bit,
I mean,
which
what's
is
not
fine.
driven on sex? Like underneath
Unless you're
it,
going
like
like as a couple, like a straight couple, where it's like, oh, we're here to lie by the pool and get drunk. It's like, no, we're going to fuck. That's why we're going.
right. Yeah. Well, when I was in Spain, I remembered, or sort of my my interest in learning Spanish, it was reignited because my parents didn't teach me Spanish growing up. I think because of the history, they were punished for speaking Spanish when they were like in grade school,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was just became normal for them to just speak in English all the time.
Yeah.
And then so when they raised me and my brother, they didn't teach us Spanish, and I always wanted to learn Spanish. My grandmother on my dad's side only speaks Spanish, so this means I've never had a real conversation with her. And now she,
Only through your parents, where
yeah,
they would translate for you.
well, I'm not much conversation at all. It's
Okay.
just like very like subtle, like, are you hungry? Yes, I would like some food. Like,
The extent of my Spanish is mi amo Ralph. That's it.
Oh,
And I had Spanish in school.
uh,
I had like 2 years of Spanish, but I hated the teacher, so I didn't pay attention. So I flunked it.
yeah, yeah. Well, my Spanish is not much more than yours, so don't feel bad.
Do you correct me if I'm being presumptuous, or so when you meet other people who either have Mexican or Latino backgrounds, do they expect you to speak Spanish?
Oh yeah, that's exactly how it is actually. I think I very obviously look Latino. And in Los Angeles, it's such a like international city.
Yeah.
Sometimes Middle Eastern people will think that I'm Middle Eastern, which I see it.
Oh yeah,
I got a beard. That's
yeah.
usually the
I have a
thing.
beard. Yeah,
I have
it's the
beard and
beard.
tan skin. But yeah, people definitely have always looked at me, and maybe particularly Latino people expect me to speak Spanish,
Yeah.
and they like to shame me for not speaking Spanish. And when I went back to school to learn Spanish in 2020, immediately coming back from Spain,
Yeah.
um, I also signed up for a Latin civilization history class. And during that time, I became awakened to how much I internalized that judgment, and how it affected me on a lot of other different levels. And so it was a really, really powerful thing, me sort of starting to try to learn Spanish again, and then learning about Latin civilization history as an adult, and not in grade school, not in like going to grade school in Texas. It's like they give you a certain part of history, but they don't really go into other parts of history. And so it's like I only got one side of a story, and what was interesting was that was in 2020. So all around the time when the world was an outbreak of racial injustice all over. Here I was taking this Latin civilization class, and my mind was just really opening up to, how much the system has sort of seeped into me, and it's really intense. Like I've always had a problem. This is about sobriety. So I've always had this
Mm.
really intense problem with self-loathing and self-hatred,
Yeah.
and that's been how I process all the pain of that I think I was trying to cover up with drinking, trying to soothe, rather than wanting to lash out and hit or hurt anybody else, or I want to hurt myself.
Yeah.
And so, and not everybody's like that, but of course, many people are like that. But it started to make so much more sense that why I wanted to lash out towards myself, or hurt myself, when I had this sort of like ingrained sort of, I don't know, lack of acceptance, disdain. I'm not sure which word I want to use, um, for my own culture.
Yeah.
Because I thought that I couldn't claim that I was Mexican because, one, I can't speak Spanish, and two, my family's been in Texas for many generations.
Yeah.
Which was really frustrating because when many Latino people in my area where I'm from, they're like, "Well, where in Mexico is your family from?" And I'm like, "Well, we're from Texas." But the simple answer that I learned, in that Latin civilization class is, well, Texas was Mexico. It was Mexico before it was the United States, and because of the history, I ended up being American. But but after that class, I started calling myself Mexican as well, because this is my heritage, and whether I speak Spanish or not does not mean that I can't claim my heritage.
No,
So
I think also I know from myself. Just like I think I've become more Danish after I've moved here. So now I'm interested in Nordic mythology or history, Vikings, all that. So it's curious to see where one's ancestors come from and kind of learn some of the stuff. But it where do you think, so as a, like, let's dive into like childhood. Has that, so growing up in Texas, Mexican American, also gay, how was that? You talked about it was like it's conservative. We see the news over here, and America is crazy at the moment when it comes to religion and politics and so on. Not that it hasn't always been like that, but it
yeah.
seems to have culminated. How did you find it growing up in Texas?
Well, I just didn't feel comfortable to necessarily be who I was. It's tough, like being a little boy, like very little, like first grade, and understanding on some level that, like, I got to protect myself.
Mm.
I can't just play with the toys that I want to play with, and I can't just um, dress up like a cheerleader with a wig on, which I had no access to wigs. I had T-shirts, but I would.
I think we all. I think I have pictures of that. Yeah,
We all do
myself.
it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. We all do that. T-shirts were my wigs. You know, knowing that, like, I just want to play in this manner, but they're also knowing that, like, that I shouldn't want that. It's like it's taking me a lifetime to just, and actually it's coming up right now as we speak, like, because we're recording something, and I know that we're doing an interview and people are going to watch or whatever, this thing comes on where I'm in protective mode.
Mm.
And then, it's fine that it's going to take a lifetime to learn how to shed all of that, and to just really come back to, like, really being present. um but I know that I'm doing all the things that I'm exploring in all the different ways that are going to help me learn how to maintain that access to, like, who I am, and just,
Yeah.
like, what I want to do, and that freedom that since I was a kid, I felt like I had to, like, protect, and I had to, like, create a protective boundary. um so it was really hard. But I have a great family. My parents are still together, and I have one older brother. So my nuclear family is unconditionally supportive and loving. They always have been.
And they were always very okay with you just being your authentic self at home.
I think that even I would even hide it from them as well.
But it was not necessarily because they've said something. It
Yeah,
was
not
more what you saw, the world looked at it like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
pretty much, yeah. I know that when I came out to my family, they were supportive from the get go.
Mm.
They were just so concerned that I was so upset. They just wanted me to be happy. So
I think I come from a very supportive household. My mom let me play with Barbie dolls. It was never a question of me. If the kid wanted it, she's gonna buy it. So that was never. She was very, maybe like 20, 30 years in advance compared to like parents doing that now.
hmm
Um, but even with all that, because the world is constantly telling us we are wrong, and we pick up on that energy, so we feel unsafe. We try to protect ourselves. So even with having the most supportive family in the world, you're still gonna grow up with trauma with like being gay, or like you with a different cultural background. Um, so it takes a long time to uncode and deconstruct that trauma. Even a lot of people think that you have to have gone through homophobic abuse and all that to have all that trauma. Just like, no, 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 no. If you're a kid that's constantly measuring your surroundings all through your childhood, that's going to leave a scar later on. So some people might go through it and don't think about it and be completely fine. But and this is why we see, for example, mental health issues much more prevalent in the LGBTQ plus community, because we are constantly on guard in a way. Even way into adulthood, I'm on guard. If I walk into the street, I'm lucky enough that I can assimilate or mask so I don't come off extremely flamboyant or gay. But not everyone has that luxury. But there is definitely situations where I'm in public where I do feel a bit uncomfortable. And I was like, I don't quite know how these people are going to react to me. Am I safe here? And I think a lot of people, especially maybe from our straight counterparts, is they kind of think, oh, you come out one time and that's it. We come out every day. We have to pick and choose who's safe to talk to. Who's it safe to tell I'm gay? Who's safe to tell I'm a recovering addict? Who's safe to tell I'm into leather without judgment? And that can be quite hard, and it's draining.
yeah, definitely.
So when did you start exploring your kinky side?
Hmm. That's interesting. I have a friend who's like, well, gay sex is kinky in and of itself. Um,
Well, a nice cuddle is fine, but I wouldn't call that kinky.
when did I start? Well, I'm gonna have to say that starting working at the Eagle
Mm.
when I was 21 years old introduced me to different, kinky things that were available. I know that I was already like sort of drawn to porn that had the leather and sort of the role playing in it, but starting to work at the Eagle, it put me into contact with more of those things, and I felt at home. It's like I thought it was cool and interesting, and not things that some things I didn't have the inclination to go and do myself, um, but I liked that it was exciting and not basic, like
Not vanilla,
not regular
regular
regular stuff.
sex.
Like it's expansive. I'm a Sagittarius, so Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. I don't know if you speak the language of astrology.
Not besides I'm a Libra,
Oh, okay.
and that's I always kind of I have my star sign tattooed on me,
Oh,
so I'm not into it, but Libra is always, for some reason, my star sign has always been very important to me.
yeah. Maybe someday you'll use some of your creativity to look into that deeper.
Yeah,
That's the wonderful thing I think about sobriety, is that we have so much time and energy to devote to endless interests, and it sometimes it takes time for that interest to kind of become for you to be curious about it. But anyway, so yeah, I like an expansive sort of environment, and kink is absolutely that. It's like anything creative and imaginative that you can come up with. Kink is the kink is the space to do it, to try it.
And I'm assuming leather is the main like clothing fetish, or is there other stuff as well that really
Well,
interests you?
if anybody wants to give me a whole bunch of money, then I will gladly, develop a bigger rubber repertoire. I like fashion in general. I always have, and actually, like my first pair of leather pants was in high school because I went to my prom in a pair of leather pants. And anyway, I had a
Oh,
couple of pair.
that's so cool. I my first pair of leather pants was probably when I was 15, 16, when I was at boarding school.
Yeah,
So I was the only one in leather pants. They were way too big for me.
we were similar. Yeah,
There you go.
I got them at the like local mall, and they were kind of a baggy sort of style, not what I would choose. But I had some from the Gap as well that were tighter and made me feel like Ricky Martin, shaking my bonbon.
For anyone watching that's born after the 2000s,
Sorry.
Ricky Martin is very, very, very hot. He's still really, really hot.
Shake your bonbon,
Yeah.
shake your bonbon, shake your
Oh,
bonbon.
I have his first English album. It's I love
Of
that album.
course, you still have it, right?
Yeah, I think I still have it. Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
still have it. Yeah, absolutely great album.
We should. Let's bring it back to was it 2000?
Must be
Around then.
99,
Yeah.
2000. Yeah, was his first English album. Well, he got popular in Denmark with some of his Spanish stuff as well, but
Yeah.
it was mainly the English stuff that brought him through to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ricky.
Yeah, very, very good. Yeah. So what is your favorite piece of gear?
My favorite piece of
Besides
gear.
this, of course.
Oh yeah, well this is special. Shout out to Ben Orson Leather in Los Angeles, because I had them custom make me the sash. The one that they made for the winner could have fit anybody, and it was too big for me, so we had this one custom made.
Bit more convenient travel size as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's so much lighter. You know, packing for leather convention trips, it's you have to be very careful and very choosy for what you pack because I only get like 50 pounds and then the rest is on my back.
Yeah.
So
or you're wearing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and a 12-hour whole flight in Wesco boots.
I can't. I mean, I respect all the guys that can do that, but I need to be comfortable, and I get too hot easily. Anyway, gosh, my favorite. I love this hat. I mean, there's so many pieces that I'm really attached to, and I've got great stories. But this particular hat was left at the bar, in the back somehow. At maybe one of the dancers. I don't know. Maybe somebody in the community in LA. Maybe they see this and they're like, "Hey, give me my hat back." It's been many years. But I'm the only one. It was left back there for months, and I was the only one whose head it would fit on because I have a small head, and I have a really hard time finding hats that I like. But I love this one. It's really worn. It's got the sort of the silver sort of band on there. I think that the new ones that I see in most of the stores now, they look different. They don't usually have the silver. Although over here, I feel like I've seen more of that one. I don't who's making that one.
This one is Spexter in Munich.
Okay.
This is the deluxe version. It doesn't originally come with these two bands, but you buy the deluxe version. It comes with it, and you can buy the Eagle as well, and it also comes in the silver.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably the place I will go to buy mine because, like you, I'm quite fussy how it sits on my head. So if it doesn't sit right, I'm not going to wear it.
Yeah.
It's not different to you. I have a huge head, so it kind of needs to work with me.
Yeah. Well, this hat is really special. I also love that, like, I've been in dark rooms, like at Dark Lands recently, or in April, feels like last year, but it was only in April.
Yeah.
And I just love how like, okay, it's in the way, so I have to like set it down on the floor and like doing my business, and but also in the corner of my eye, I'm like, is my hat okay?
See, that's how I lost my first hat.
Well, it had, a small price to pay to the party gods.
No, I was devastated quite a lot. This was the hat I competed in at IML. Also, it was a gift from one of the guys in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Plus, the eagle on the front was given by one of the managers at the Leather Archives in Chicago. So I was very sad. But this is from my using days. I was more interested in that cock over there, so I put it down, and then I walked off because I forgot.
Well, hopefully, just like this hat used to belong to somebody, and now
someone's
it's mine,
enjoying it somewhere.
Hopefully, I mean that's one of the most special ways we talk about acquiring leather is by having it passed down.
Well,
it was unwillingly
passed down
consent.
Without consent. No, gear with history is fun. It's like these boots. I did pay a little bit for them, but they are my former boss's boots because he upgraded.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, you can't do that when you're doing an Instagram live. But yeah, it's history of leather. Of course, I think in Europe we're not so. Yes, I think gifting is becoming a little bit more of a thing, but we're much more like, oh, we just gotta buy it.
Oh, I don't think I see a whole lot of gifting necessarily. Where I see it is, the older generation, they're like, like I've got handed some stuff from somebody, their stuff from the 80s recently. That's where I see it, where they're like really, or maybe sometimes people pass.
Yeah.
And that's another way I see it, like passed down. But I don't see a lot of gifting necessarily.
No, but it is a nice tradition when it does happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely had. I've gotten some great pieces in the past from other people, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
It's also nice to buy from new. Absolutely. I wouldn't have bought my brand new Lenglets if it wasn't for that. But yeah. So you mentioned astrology and your star sign, and I know you read tarot cards. Can you tell me a little bit about that? How did that come about?
So when I got that book, The Artist's Way, one of the things that it tells you to do is to take yourself on an artist date every week. And what else does it say? To write morning pages, which is like journal writing, stream of consciousness journal writing. I think on one of my it also says to treat your art like your inner artist child to things that it's interested in.
Yeah.
And so one day I grabbed like a little mini version of the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, which is like the most popular tarot deck that most people are familiar with. When you think tarot cards, it's the deck that comes into most people's
life. The one we see in TV programs when they're reading, and then Death card comes up constantly.
Yeah, which is a great deck, and it's what I started with. But I bought this little mini deck because I thought, I'm like, this isn't something I really should be investing in. I bought that mini deck, but I bought like 12 or 15 books to learn interpretations. And then in a cleaning spree one time, I got rid of all of the books, but I kept the tarot cards deck, even though I wasn't like, I did it for a while and then I put it down. But then when the pandemic hit and I happened to be alone a lot at that time, the tarot cards were sort of calling me, and they were a wonderful
read me.
Yeah, they were a wonderful friend when I was like alone, in quarantine, and I didn't have as much access to people, and so it came back around. I even put the Magician on my leg. I have a big tattoo of the Magician on my leg. So like, I put it down for years, but there's this part of me that was always very attracted to it. And then, so when the pandemic happened, I have really like gone deeper and deeper and deeper into the tarot and magic and astrology. And I think it's because I feel it's really important to have a sort of a spiritual practice.
Mm-hmm.
And when I learned that I could allow myself to invest in these sort of like woo woo spirituality things, I think before
Woo woo. That is the official term.
yeah, everybody understands woo woo, even though it's kind of
Yeah.
like sort of mocking the things. But anyway, it works for the moment. When I realized that I could allow myself to like those things, um, that was really it was really powerful, you know, to also learn through like doing a meditation one day. I learned that I had this sort of epiphany that part of the reason why I've wanted to like hurt myself in the past is because I want to like beat out anything that is sort of unacceptable to society. So, including like believing in magic or
Mm.
using these cards and liking like symbolism, and all those things are too playful and imaginative. And so society that I live in, I think, tells me that's not okay. So instead of it worked so well, the system worked so well that I literally try to hurt myself
Yeah.
and beat it out of myself. It's like I am policing myself. And when I realized, I had that sort of epiphany that actually diving into those things even more so is sort of the way that I can fight back, if that makes sense. To sort of unlearn that sort of really toxic behavior. And the other thing that I haven't like explicitly said, but and this is something that still happens to me in sobriety. I get the urge to punch myself in the face, and I do. I punch myself. The only time I ever like fought myself, like the first time I did it, I was drunk and I was arguing with my boyfriend, and I guess I was losing the argument because I threw myself to the floor and started hitting, like lunging at myself.
Okay.
And the next day I went to work and I had bruises on my face and I'm a very honest person. It's a Sagittarius trait. And my boss asked me what happened, and I'm like, well, I hit myself, like, and anyway, I fought myself. And then so this has been something that I've struggled with through my sobriety. And so when I get this impulse, when my brain thinks about, I want to hit myself,
Yeah.
I know something is super super off, and that's when I know that I have to be utilizing my support system,
Yeah.
my therapist, my sober community. But so having that epiphany and meditation about the punching myself being related to like trying to beat out the sensitivity, the vulnerability, the playfulness, the inner child self or whatever. I know how like, I don't know, cliche that must sound.
No, not at all. What you're kind of describing is allowing yourself to be a child, allowing yourself to like things people might go, why do you like that? That doesn't make sense. Stuff like that. So it makes perfect sense to me because I allow myself to. I'm a massive movie buff. I love childish movies. Yes, they people can see. And I love Lego. It's like I'm almost 40 years old and I play with Lego, and a lot of people will wring their nose at that.
Yeah.
But I don't care.
Right.
It's like I'm allowing myself to buy things I didn't necessarily be able to afford as a child.
Yeah.
There was a lot of love in my house, but we didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I'm allowing, yes, material stuff now, but for me, it makes me happy. So if you reading tarot cards makes you happy and makes you, well, tarot cards can work as meditation as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I see it all as like
I've never actually had a tarot card reading done before. So I don't
well,
actually know how it works.
well, if you're interested, I would love to read tarot for
Oh,
you.
it's like death card. Death card.
Yeah, but the death card is
It doesn't mean death. I know this. I actually it can also mean change.
yeah. I actually got the death card the morning of my interview for IML,
Oh wow.
and because I put that information on my bio for them, they asked me that day what my tarot reading was that morning, and I was like, oh, it was really really good. And I only just scratched the surface of that experience of my
Yeah.
tarot reading that morning, but it to sum it up, basically, it was like I gotten the death card, and the death card to me is always sort of about regeneration.
Yeah. But
Something
that's not what
dies.
horror films tell us. That is like you're dead if you walk out the door now.
Yeah,
That's
so
where the misunderstanding is.
yeah. So I told them that this experience IML is like a rebirth for me,
Mm.
and I'm a Gemini rising. I'm a Sagittarius sun. IML happens in May, at the end of May, and so IML every year is always a Gemini. I was already a Gemini rising. Anyway, it was meant to be.
It was meant to be. So that's a good segue into how did the title stuff start? Because this is not the only title you have.
Yeah, I got another title, which is on my waist here, which you can't really read, but I just want to give you a turn anyway.
Of course, of course.
But yeah, my other title is Eagle LA Mr. Leather 2023.
Yeah, I left you to say that because it is a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. But I had my contest in January, and I've been working at the bar for 18 years. And I always told my boss, Charlie, that I would do the contest when it was meaningful to me.
Mm.
Because I've worked the bar many times when we have various leather contests, and I see everybody that goes up there, they're like actually involved in the community, and they really participate. They go to all the events, and I was pursuing makeup, and like I love wearing gear while I'm working. I love wearing gear in general, but I wasn't going to all the leather events. I always felt that I was sort of adjacent.
Yeah.
But also, like, working there was more to me than just like a place to work.
It's a part of your family. It's yeah, that's where your chosen family is.
Yeah, but the way everything had evolved, I stopped pursuing makeup around the time of the pandemic. It was hard for me to move away from that because I thought that was my career goal, and I just wasn't that good at it. I mean, I was okay. And people will argue with me, like, no, you're amazing, whatever. And you can look in my Instagram at Marcus Monster. It's all there in the past. But it takes a lot. Like, you have to be really, really, really good at it and really dedicated to make a really good living at it. And I just didn't have it in me. And the pandemic was a great way to like shift gears and to really take some time to think about like moving away from that, like whether I was happy or not. So it took me a couple of years to really make that decision. But the bar was closed for a year and a half during the pandemic, and there was times where we weren't sure if the bar was going to reopen, or at least I wasn't sure. And when the bar reopened, that's when I decided to quit my other job, my makeup job. I worked at Sephora for 5 years. I was working both jobs, the Eagle and Sephora. Totally different worlds.
I was about to say that's like going from Sephora over to the Eagle. It's like, let me just take the makeup off and then put a leather waistcoat on.
Yeah. I also really liked that though.
Oh, I love the contrast. Why not? It's I most leathermen, when you walk into a bar and it's like a full like kid outfit and you kind of listen into conversations, they're not talking about whipping boys or what slave they've beaten over, done BDSM on and stuff like that. No, they're talking about the latest recipe they made from this cookbook. Or it's a lot of people might disagree with me, but leather is drag as well. It
I
can,
know that can get real controversial.
it
That
can, it
idea.
can, but I do. It is a bit of drag.
No,
It's a bit of fun.
no, I agree. I agree with you. Yeah, it's all. What does RuPaul say?
You're
We're
born
born
naked,
naked.
and then the rest is drag. Yeah, absolutely.
Um, yeah. So where was the question? Though I've already
Well,
forgot again.
you working at the Eagle, you stopped working at Sephora, and
Oh
then the
right.
titles came out.
Oh yeah. So when the bar reopened, I happened to. Some of the guys didn't come back, and I happened to be the one that I was the one that was there the longest. Now I've been the bartender that had been working there the longest. I had the most seniority, and I was able to just work 3 days a week instead of the like 6 days a week I was working when I was working the two jobs. And I since I had more time, I realized that it was like, and I had gotten out of a relationship sort of recently. I was realizing that it was time for me to kind of invest in learning more about my leather life. And so I went to my first conference, which was the first claw that we had in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
Stands for Cleveland Leather Awareness Week.
Awareness Week.
Yeah, that's what it stands
It's
for.
that tickles me a little bit. It's like it's Awareness Week. It's like it sounds like some charity. It's like it's Asperger's Awareness Week or something like that. It's Leather Awareness Week.
Well, I wonder, they maybe came up with that title because I think it might have been one of the first conferences or the first conference that had a bunch of workshops.
Yeah.
So it was very informative and a way for people to learn a lot about like getting different skill sets.
So it's very different to, for example, IML, where it's much more buying and contest, where Claw is more workshops,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
learning how to do bondage, flogging, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So they had their first one in Los Angeles in, I guess it was 2021. And after that conference, and I'm a big believer in going to conferences, I'm a big believer in immersing oneself in an environment. And I think an environment of like-minded individuals, I think it can be really healing and supportive, and you meet people and learn different things that you wouldn't have otherwise. And I left that conference and I was like, you know what, I'm ready to do the contest now. And my boss was like, well, great, we're not doing one this year.
You're not loud.
So you have a whole year and a half or something to prepare. And so then I started going to events. I went to Easter in Berlin. I went to IML to scope it out, to go to the contest and watch it happen. Where else did I go? I went to Darklands. Um, yeah, I went to a bunch of different conferences. Yeah, it was amazing.
And so, what does the Eagle contest entail?
The Eagle contest, I just came from Hamburg, and congratulations to Uli. I don't remember his last name, but Uli is the new Mr. Hamburg Leather.
Oh, fantastic! Congratulations, Uli.
And the contest there was really quick. Actually, it was like there was 3 questions drawn out of a box for each contestant and an introduction. They introduce themselves, and then the audience chooses by putting their token in a boot. Well, our contest, the Eagle contest, and I think pretty much all the contests I see in the States, are generally there's only the jury decides who wins.
Mm.
And it's the same format as IML. So there's a speech, there's a jock strap, there's barware, there's a pop question, and then there was like another like silly question that was less of a pop question because they gave us
time to prepare.
They gave us the day to prepare answers to like 7 different questions.
Okay.
But it's a mini IML, a total mini IML, and there's like different sections, and it takes all night long, pretty much. So it's I guess it's good preparation for IML.
Well, I kind of when I look at American titles and stuff like that, it is a little bit like there's different types of people who go for titles. Like career titles, and then there's people who do it for the fun, and someone who wants to do it for community. That is what I'm seeing from the outside when I look at titles over there. So yeah, you definitely, for example, when I did Mr. Europe, that was jockstrap round, funny question round, and then you have a 4-minute sexy show with
fun.
music.
Fun.
Yeah, I'll show you it later. What I did with I have it on video. It's not allowed on YouTube anymore, but that's music copyrights. Actually, not what's in the video. But yeah, and they're very strict. It has to be 4 minutes. Mine was 4 minutes and 10 seconds, and they wanted to cut 10 seconds on my show. Yeah. So it's like, well, you have to cut it at the start because the ending is important. Yeah. So I was having a bit of a divas drop when it comes to that. So we've similar. I think we've become similar. But Mr. Europe, you have a 4-minute show. So that can be whatever you want it to be. I've once saw 1 year a guy mime to music while singing into a dildo. That was different.
How did it play out to the audience? Did they like it?
Yeah, I thought it was fun. Okay. It was camp as hell, but it was great. So you go on and win Mr. Eagle, and then you go on to IML. Yeah. How did you find that experience? Because I know for me, it's intense. Yeah. And it's fast, and it's whirlwind, and it's hurry up and wait.
Well, I like being on time. It's one of the things that I learned in sobriety. I was taught by my mentors that, being punctual is really important. And so it's something that I try to maintain. So that part worked for me. I'm like, I'm sober. I can do this. Like, I can be on time, and I can show up ready to go. And that part was great. The going to different conferences beforehand really, I think, was one of the biggest parts of preparation. Because I met lots of people, and I made connections, and I made friends. I made community. I went to so many things that I developed that perspective that I think many of us have, is that all of these conferences is just like going to a family reunion at a different part in the world. It's like I just get to spend time with all the people that I've met throughout the years, and that's so super special. What else? Oh, I had an amazing mentor. He won IML in 2007. And so he helped me prepare for the Eagle contest, and he helped me prepare for IML. His name is Mike Gurley. He's amazing. He's the best mentor I could have ever had. And I loved it. I loved preparing. I loved the soul searching I had to do to figure out what I could say on that stage that would be of relevance to such a large audience. Because the Eagle contest was a smaller audience of the people, my community in Los Angeles. Yeah. But when it's the international community, I was like, what do I have to say that applies to what message do I have to give that applies to everybody? So it was amazing. I loved it. I was very focused.
Do you know what? When they announced, because I kept checking it the day after, because we're time delay here, so I was like, who won? And I'd written with you like 2-3 days before you went, kind of like, good luck, you're going to be amazing, just be yourself. I always kind of like when people are going to contests, or at least IMLs, like, don't expect to win, because there's a lot of contestants. But I was so pleased when I saw you win. I was just like, yes. That was so amazing. I was so pleased for you. I was a little bit emotional that day. I thought it was really, you deserved it so much, because my interactions with you, just even if we hadn't spoken, like when writing with you, you were genuine person. So what I know of you, you definitely deserved it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's really sweet.
Yeah, it's I was so pleased. I was also like shocked. It's like, oh shit, I've been like wishing you luck, and then you actually go and win the whole bloody thing. I was just like, yes.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is I found your profile because I was doing research. Like, I'm a nerd, and when I get onto something, I get really nerdy, and I do like a deep dive about it as much as I possibly can. I only have so much time and energy, so I haven't even begun to learn everything that I want to learn about our community. But that's okay because there's time. But I found your profile in within that search, and of course I'm sober, so I was like, eating up your interviews. So it was.
I'm
So you helped me prepare as well.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
I'm glad. Well,
Yeah.
I've had some amazing sober fetish men on as well, or people just with knowledge who are not necessarily sober but just have a lot of knowledge around mental health stuff, and it's yeah, I keep getting amazed with some of the people I have on, and it's been really lovely to have you on and just talk about your story, really. And see, this is the thing, is like, yes, it's a podcast about sober stuff as well, but it's never really the main focus. It's about learning about the person behind the sobriety, and I feel like I've gotten to know you a little bit more this hour. It's a little snippet people get in these hours. We talk to each other, but like about tarot cards, all this, it just shows there's much more layers than just a title and sobriety. There's so much more to a person. So I'm so pleased you would come on and travel all the way to London for me, not because you already had other stuff doing as well.
You were a huge, like, a main event of this. Like, because I'd been watching your interviews already, I knew I wanted to do an interview with you. But then I was like, coming to Europe is very costly, and it takes a while. So, like, if I'm gonna be here, I want to stay at least a week. And so I was like, when I got the idea to, like, come from Hamburg over here to see you and do this in person,
Yeah.
I've been super excited about it, and I thought that was like, it's just incredible.
I was incredibly honored that when you suggested it, I was just like, yeah, why not? What if you can make it work? Absolutely, come over and I'll do my little setup here, which is, by the way, the first time I've done it this way around. So it is also a little bit of a he's being guinea pig today.
Oink. Do guinea pigs oink? They do now.
I'll show you a video of what guinea pigs sound like. I know it's not the noise, but yes. But we've actually come out. We're running out of time now. We've actually run a little bit over time, but that's the joy of pre-recording. We can run over time a little bit, especially if the conversation's really going well. So thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah.
If anyone's listened to us or watched us, and they've enjoyed some of the stuff you've said, or something has struck a nerve, or they're more curious about it, where can they get a hold of you?
My Instagram is at Marcus Monster. It's Marcus Monster. And my Twitter is also at Marcus Monster. So, but if you wanna chat, Instagram is great.
Instagram is great.
Yeah.
And of course, as always with these episodes, if anything has triggered you, contact a friend. Drop me a DM. You're more than welcome to contact me online. I'm happy to help guide you to right channels if you need support. We know some of these subjects can be quite tough. This was a slightly more lighthearted episode, so hopefully not too triggering for everyone. But it's been absolute joy to have you on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this was the first episode of season 6. And hopefully I should be back next week with the next episode. But have a great weekend and stay safe, stay sober, and stay kinky. Bye.